The views and opinions expressed on Smack My Pitch Up are those of the panelists and not that of the GUI Media Network or associated brands and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is rated R for violence, language, and nudity, because clothing is a prison and society will not cage me.
In a world with too many reboots and remakes,
two men will stop at nothing to make it even worse. This is Smack My Pitch Up.
Hello, geeks, and welcome to another episode of Smack My Pitch Up, the podcast that reboots, remakes, reimagines, sequels, cycles, and adapts some of your favorite and least favorite films and television. And with me, as always, from here on out, we've got Thandi, my co-host.
Mellow greetings, and may your day be full of grace tarnished. So two things, because my week has been occupied by Elden Rings and almost nothing else except Demolition Man.
Rewatching this, especially taking the time to watch it with the consideration of recasting it, I was able to kind of glean a little bit more about this movie that I just kind of went right across my brain previous to, including
you and me, brother.
Mellow greetings being one of them, where just the choices of adding multiple words together for no fucking reason is just incredible in this movie. For if you haven't guessed already, the film that we're going to be rebooting, remaking, what have you, on this episode is Demolition Man, the 1993 sci-fi classic that takes place in the distant future of 2032, but starts in the not too distant future of 1996. So that's the one thing that like always cracked me up about this movie, is that it came out in 93. Apparently by 96, LA was like a nightmarish, like burning hellscape.
Was a shit show.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you believe the media at the time, because I remember the news specials and stuff, LA was already there.
Sure.
Like the crack epidemic and how virulent the gangs were. Like they were like, oh, the gangs will be bigger than the military and they're taking over the country. And yeah, it was a crazy time. Like the media push against, I don't want to say it's racial, but it was almost a little bit racial. The media push against people that lived in California of a certain persuasion was hardcore. It was hardcore.
Well, it's like in Richmond, where we're from, or currently reside. That's the same kind of tone when talking about BLM and the statues being removed, is that anybody that lives in the surrounding counties, like in Goochland and Amelia, think that downtown is just this like constantly on fire, burning cinder.
Like war zone, yeah.
War zone. And it's like, I had a really nice dinner at like Pearlie's the other day. Like, I don't know what you're feeling.
It's coffee shops and hippie kids. I don't know how you can't know that, but yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's coffee shops and hippie kids.
Ground Zero near the Lee Monument, when that was still up, there were people like playing violin and like bringing their kids to look at the statue. Like it was not a hellscape. So yeah, the sensationalism that news does, especially when they have an opportunity to be a little racist, is usually taken up on. And Demolition Man definitely does the same, for sure, in a couple circumstances.
Yeah, it is. It's a social commentary that says some stuff where I'm like, oh, why are you saying this stuff? And at the time, I was probably 100% on board with like the point of view of the movie, because that was the point of view of the world. But man, it is shocking. It is shocking now.
Oh, it really is. It is basically the conversation we're having currently, really, about the culture wars of like PC culture, or, you know, at the very least, consideration culture, versus I can say and do whatever I want culture, which is represented by Dennis Leary in Demolition Man and barely hamburgers. Like that's it's Dennis Leary. If you follow him, you can have hamburgers. If you don't follow Dennis Leary, you can't. Like you
can eat cigarettes for breakfast or whatever you want to do. No, it's about PC culture deballing America is what the Demolition Man's about. It's just it's a weird thing to double down on, but you're right. It is reflected in the argument that we're having culturally right now. So I guess it's a persistent cultural argument, but The Hollywood side of it was kind of on the machismo, survival of the fittest, live hard and die pretty, or whatever side of that argument at the time, I guess.
But also there is kind of a conflict with how we view that conversation now versus maybe in 93, is that there's some like left-leaning ideals of like no guns and the like, but there is also kind of a suggestion that like anybody that's not seen as like a, you know, the right type of person lives in the sewer. Like, and that's not, it's kind of like the opposite of like, if you're talking about like the tolerant minded folks that are like, pro-trans, anti-racist, like not just non-racist, but anti-racist, and trying to be as inclusive as possible. It's not the gun people with the hamburgers, like that's not. So this is kind of a weird combination, which is one thing I considered when looking at a remake, is that I didn't want to have some very polarizing approach to it, where it was just like the shoot 'em up gun burger people versus the like you can't cuss and don't touch during sex people. There needed to be some other consideration of like how people are being polarized in this world of Demolition Man, and that was actually kind of a challenge.
I could definitely see that trying to be that kind of creative with your pitch would be challenging. I went very leftist with one of my pitches.
Good. Yeah, I was curious as to how Demolition Man would look from that viewpoint too. So I'm interested to see what you have with it. So those unfamiliar with Demolition Man, it's one of those movies that no one agrees is good. No one thinks it's actually a good movie, but most everyone enjoys it for how bad it is. It's so much fun. It's really fun.
It's fun.
It's so dumb. It's a really dumb movie. The sci-fi like world that they build is insane. Some of the choices they make, they overdo it with the language use. That there's no new language, but they just happy joy feelings is a thing.
So
do
you know why it's insane? Did you read into the history of this movie?
No, I didn't get a chance to.
So this movie was directed by a guy who is not a director. He's a visual performance artist. He's done like maybe 2 major motion pictures and one other narrative motion picture across like a 30 years period. But mostly he does visual art installations and like makes commentary with his visual art. So he was going for something that was creative first before anything else. And that's why the movie's so out there. It's out there.
It is wild, including a title track by Sting called Demolition Man that is just mwah. It's
chef's kiss.
It's so goddamn bad. And the most blatant inclusion of like ads in a
product placement
in a movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It was absolutely incredible. It was
made me nostalgic for a chili cheese burrito. I want a chili cheese burrito right now.
Oh man, yeah, the old school Taco Bell menus for sure, but that was not what they were serving. It was a lot of small tapas, I think, is what we saw in the
I
movie.
did not dig that, but I was looking in the background somewhere for that chili cheese burrito.
There's just one person in the back giving no fucks, just chili cheese burritoing it down. So those that need maybe a reminder of Demolition Man, there is the main character played by Stallone, John Spartan, who is tricked into thinking that hostages are not in a building, that ends up getting blown up by his nemesis, Simon Phoenix, played by
Wesley Snipes
in his prime. And so they
chewing the scenery, just chewing it up.
It's not even chewing it. He's just like ripping it with his bare teeth, like he's
he's doing the Joker. It's so weird.
He is doing the Joker, right? Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I was thinking about who to cast in one of the castings, and I was like, I need somebody that's literally in the manic stage the whole time, because he does read like somebody that is like extremely manic the whole time, just like on 10 on that scale, just going.
Yeah, he is
hard.
geeked. he is geeked.
Oh, full on. And it's so much fun to watch, except for the part where he's like super racist. But also, the movie was incredibly racist to him at one point, because that when he has that scene where he's fighting the cops is the only time in the entire movie where you hear like MC record scratching in the soundtrack. Like,
no, it's not just that scene. It is every Wesley Snipes scene starts with some kind of video game style rap sting, like, oh, black guys on the scene.
Yeah.
Like every time.
It's
like, I guess it was part of the comedy or part of like the more the peppier aesthetic they were going for, but it is off-putting. That was as off-putting to me as the horribly racist moment that Wesley Snipes had out of the contextless racist moment that Wesley Snipes had.
Zero context, yeah. And I agree, it was just as much like, wait, what was that? Did they record scratch in the background? They wiki'd real quick? Oh my God. Yeah, but the thing is that this movie feels like it should be something that everyone involved knows that how batshit insane it is, but it plays it so straight that you're not sure through the entire movie. Like, they may not know what they were creating, because everybody seems completely oblivious to the fact that this is fucking insane.
See, I feel like they know that it's the good time movie, and for Stallone, he doesn't care, because Stallone is just playing one kind of character in this period of his career. So he's just doing I'm the 80s, I'm the kind of movie guy that Schwarzenegger and I have functionally created, and that's what what I'm doing in this movie. The movie might be doing something else, but this is what I'm doing in this movie.
There's even a Schwarzenegger like pull in the movie where in the future Schwarzenegger becomes the president and they do an amendment so that he can be president since he's not
the Constitution.
And
Stallone just like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's just pissed that Schwarzenegger became president. Was fucking great. Fucking great.
That was great. That was some sharp writing, and it reflects well on Stallone, because his ego was kind of out of control at that period of time. So he had this like rivalry with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
So for that, to put that joke in there, I dug that a lot.
Yeah, that was a really fun little like kind of wall break moment. Okay, so let's get into it a little bit. We have our choices as for anybody unfamiliar with this show. We have two takes apiece for this movie. We have the take we think might actually work, and then we have our remix version, which is something that's just like kind of a fuck it version where it's a different tone, or it's just a really weird choice, or just weird actors, or a weird director, or just a weird approach to the subject matter, as kind of a thought experiment on what it would look like if, John Waters got a hold of it. There's a lot of fun room in the remix portion, but we're going to start with our real takes on it. For yours, are you looking for that campy, fun action vibe, or are you trying to go at it from a different angle?
So for my primary take, I am not doing the fun, campy vibe. I'm doing a kind of very serious, hard sci-fi vibe.
Okay. And is it still taking place around the same timelines? Are you doing like a period piece?
The timelines are going to be vaguely the same, 90s or even 80s to the future.
Okay.
So John Spartan is still coming in from the past to influence the future.
Sure. Which is interesting in sci-fi, because usually it's somebody from the future going back to the past to like correct something. Mm-hmm. So them being like,
unless you're Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like mini Buck Rogers.
90s. Yep. I when I think Stallone, I think Buck Rogers personally. Oh,
Where's Tweaky?
Let's do that movie. Stallone as Buck Rogers. Yeah.
I would watch the shit out of that.
No,
I'd be laughing. That'd be like the Flash Gordon of the 90s.
Oh my God. Incredible. It'd be incredible. So for your take, your serious take, hard sci-fi, let's lay it out, including like the director, like what are we looking at as far as the story here?
All right. Fantastic. Well, for my serious take, we're removing the focus from Simon Phoenix. Simon Phoenix is in the story. He's no longer the main antagonist, and really like the energy of the movie from the 90s comes from Wesley Snipes doing his thing. That's no longer the case. So I do for Simon Phoenix, because he's in this movie, I have Daveed Diggs. Now, if you don't know who that is,
very
he was in
familiar.
Hamilton.
Yep. He's also in the TV show Snowpiercer as well.
Yes, he's in Snowpiercer. I like him for what I want to do with Simon Phoenix. And then he is the leader of, they're not really terrorists, they're activists. They're armed, and they've taken over a research facility because of the nature of the research. It's nuclear energy research, but they've had some accidents that have waste poisoned the land. So they have done an armed takeover of this facility. So they've sent in John Spartan to take care of this situation. John Spartan is Jason Momoa. And Jason Momoa's John Spartan is old school, like the old school. He's a cowboy. So he goes in here, guns blazing, and he's not mad at anything more than the fact that these guys are going against the social order that, as he understands it. Sure. And so he's angry. He doesn't care about the environment or the research that's being done. He doesn't even care that these guys are armed. He cares that they're trying to fight the social order. So he goes in, guns are blazing. These guys are not really prepared because they're not really terrorists, they're not trained. They're just armed, and they lucked into this situation. John Spartan takes out most of them by himself in a cowboy fashion, as you would as an 80s or 90s cop or whatever. And when he gets to Daveed Diggs, he shoots wildly, damages some equipment. The research is of a nature that the equipment damage actually causes a localized black hole. Daveed Diggs and Schwarzenegger are in the event horizon. We don't know what happens inside the event horizon of a real black hole, but in this case, and the science of this movie, basically time is frozen around them. Everything outside the event horizon for miles, maybe hundreds of miles, is destroyed. But time is stopped for them. Time is stopped for them for an extended period of time, 75 years. When the localized incident of them being frozen in time evaporates, both he and Daveed Diggs have a beat on each other. Momoa shoots first, kills Daveed Diggs, looks around. There are scientists there that just watched him kill this man. He's in the future. No time has passed for him. 75 years has passed in the real world. This is a research site. He's taken in by the authorities, but because of the nature of the incident, they don't know what to do with him, and they don't really have the kind of crime that he just perpetrated.
Yeah.
And also his official standing as an officer of the law. He's not a cop. He works for the government, whatever, is recognized. He is given an observer, and that observer is Lenina Huxley, who was played by Sandra Bullock in the original movie.
Sure.
And in this movie is Kiki Lane. Kiki Lane was in Old Guard. She was in If Field Street Could Talk. She was the oldest daughter in Coming to America.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. She's the protagonist. I was going to make it Regina King. I felt she was a little bit old for what I wanted for this role.
Sure.
So I went with Kiki Lane. She is also an officer of the law. She's a peacekeeper, but what that means is something different in the future than it does mean in John Spartan's time. So John Spartan is introduced into this future world that is not technologically, but is socially like a utopian Star Trek: The Next Generation future.
Okay.
And he's actually given kind of a nanobot cocktail to help socially condition him for this future, to kind of quell his violent nature and make him more receptive to what society is now. It's just part of how society works. He sees things that he doesn't like. He sees that people are free to express themselves in ways that he does not appreciate. They don't believe some of the things that he believed in the past that he felt was a boon to society.
Sure.
Those things have fallen away. He doesn't like what he sees. So he stops taking the cocktail and uses his skills to fall off the grid. He gets away from Lenina and falls off the grid. And off the grid, he actually finds out about an organization of people that are against modern society. they feel like they've lost something in the process of society focusing more on the power and capacity of the group to accomplish things together. Like in achieving this utopia, he feels, and these small group of people feels that certain things are lost.
Sure.
So this group is led by kind of a cult leader who is, I wish I had structured that better. Who is the actors playing Michael Morbius? Jared Leto.
Oh, Jared Leto. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jared Leto is the cult leader that is in charge of this group.
The solid choice for a cult leader. I mean, he basically is with his 30 Seconds to Mars fans. So,
yeah, exactly. John Spartan ingratiates himself. Then he murders Jared Leto and takes over the group. The group becomes more powerful under John Spartan, like a political force, like a terrorist political force, and start to affect change. They become known as the Spartanists because Lenina knows something about Spartan. She was given the job to oversee him because she has what Sandra Bullock had. She has a thirst for action, a thirst for stimulation that she kind of shared with Spartan. So they thought that she could help him matriculate because she shares some of those commonalities. She's given the task to help bring Spartan to justice and to quell this what's functionally rebellion. So in the process of watching these two sides go at each other, we see what societies become, what the counter society is, and how they affect each other. Ultimately, the counter society is small. Lenina has a partner in the original movie, and I gave her a partner in this one.
That was Alfredo Garcia, I think was her
Alfredo
partner.
Garcia,
Yeah.
and in this movie, he's played by Diego Luna.
God
He's
damn
somebody
it.
that she can bounce stuff off of. You have Luna too somewhere?
Yeah, I got Luna in there too.
Yeah, they can bounce stuff. It's like a Robin. It's like having a Robin. You can bounce stuff off of them and have conversations with somebody. In this case, Diego Luna is the person I gave her for that. Through the efforts of the modern society. So it's not just her, it's through the efforts of her mobilizing society and the fact that people want to live in this utopian world. So they make the effort to preserve their utopian way of life. The Spartanists are brought low. The rebellion is basically quelled, and it comes back down to Spartan versus Huxley, Lenina Huxley, at the original remnants of the nuclear facility. Spartan physically, of course, has everything over Lenina Huxley, but she manages to shoot him with a nanobullet, not one that kills you, but that reinstalls the basically medical programming that calms you down. And they have a conversation. They have a long conversation at the end of the movie as these drugs take effect, and as the conversation takes effect, John Spartan is sitting there with his gun in his hand, and he's in the moment thinking that what he says way earlier in the movie that I forgot to mention, which is this tagline from the first movie, which is, "It takes a maniac to stop a maniac," that he says before he goes in after Simon Phoenix.
Yeah.
He looks at his gun, he says, "It takes a maniac to stop a maniac." He realizes that he does not belong to society and doesn't want to live in the society. Fade to black. You hear, "Spartan, no!" And then a gunshot, and that's the end of the movie.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So it's a dark, socially conscious take, very serious take. My director for this experience, because I want an experience, is Ridley Scott.
Okay. Ridley Scott, who
yeah.
definitely would be able to, with that tone, be able to do pretty well.
Yeah, I'm looking for somebody who can do heavy lifting with a female lead, because there's going to be, a lot of focus on Spartan, but also a lot of focus on Lenina, because she is the co-lead. She's not like the support character, the romantic interest. She's the co-lead as their direct antagonist, like Face Off. And I want the future to be like visually captivating and disconcerting, but I want it to like really play in that serious tone. And I want to feel a lot of what Spartan feels as he sees the future from his point of view too, shared on screen.
Sure.
So I think that Ridley Scott can really make that sing.
Nice. Hell yeah. And although I could just imagine, I would love to be in the room when somebody's trying to pitch to Ridley Scott that he should do a remake of Demolition Man. Like, be like, this is what we're thinking, and then just kind of like does it step by step and pulls out this story, and like with your vision, we could really nail this. And Ridley Scott is sitting there like, the Taco Bell movie. That's the one that you want me to remake. Cool.
Do you know how old I am?
But no, I think that's a really interesting take on it. I definitely went kind of a similar direction as far as a more like politically and socially focused approach to this material, and a much more serious tone than the original was, which there was nothing serious about the original. Rob Schneider was in it, so therefore
for some reason I remember him having a bigger role. I guess that's because he was in Judge Dredd. In a bigger role. Yeah,
he was like the Stallone's sidekick for a couple movies for some reason, but yeah.
I feel like there's got to be a cut of Demolition Man with more Rob Schneider stuff in it.
The Rob Schneider cut? Yeah. Let's fuck the Zack Schneider cut. We need the Rob Schneider cut.
There's like a 15-minute outtake of him like going to Taco Bell with the gang, and yeah.
Him just like, Demolition-y Man.
Making
copies. El Demolition-o. Yeah. But yeah, with mine, let me just kind of jump right into it here. For this one, I decided I was gonna really focus on some of the main points that the original movie was making. I felt, like we discussed, there was like a weird, like, we should be able to like say mildly racist stuff and eat hamburgers, and it's like that's maybe not the most important thing in the world. But there is something to the conversation about the people living in the sewers and the people that were fine dining at a like fancy Taco Bell, and how there was a major disparagement between the life that people were able to live based on personal freedom. And if you tweak that in a way that it's talking about the throwaways of society as opposed to people that wanted to eat hamburgers, then there is something there to have a discussion about. And I wanted
to go more Hunger Games with it.
Well, I actually decided to maybe do like an alternate future conversation that's been done by this director before, set in a place where there was a massive split of power between the people in power and the people that were being controlled. I'm taking on like an alternate future apartheid version of Demolition Man. So this takes place in South Africa as opposed to Los Angeles. And
damn.
Yeah. And this is basically, instead of apartheid ending when it did, this is like a alternate future version where like things get really bad as people revolt against it, and the winners win. It continues on, and it gets worse, and it gets so homogenized and bad that you end up with like a kind of a version of Demolition Man, but it's more focused on not just black and white, but also the throwaways of society, that like lower income or like or classless people. And so there are people that there are underground areas that people live. There are also like the outlying kind of wastelands of this like perfect city that does have crippling amounts of laws to it, that if you're rich enough, it's fine. So it's like one of those that laws only apply to the poor, because if you're rich enough, then
this is the ultimate extension of that.
Yeah. So there is very much that thing, which I was trying to think of how to work the tickets, because the tickets were everywhere. And if you're super fucking rich, do you care? Like, that does it matter at all? If you're going to drop the F-bomb, it's fine. Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, who fills the paper on the ticket counter in people's houses? Like, so you're cursing in your house, and it's like, you have received a sotto voce violation. Does like a meter maid come by to your house like every week to refill the paper? Don't mind me. Just refilling the paper.
I want like the Office style interview with the paper filler people, where they're just like, it's always the bathroom. People cost more in the bathroom than anywhere. Like, they know the ticket dispenser's in there. I don't know why they think they can get away with it in the bathroom, but here we are. But yeah, so there's a economic, racial, and social disparagement between the upper crust and the impoverished and throwaway members of society, LGBTQ community and the like as well. It's like, it's very much a white city quote unquote, in this version of it. And then you have kind of pre this getting bad, where there was more of an incorporation of races in South Africa from the past that get thought out to like fight one another. The same story as the actual Demolition Man. John Spartan was a soldier in South Africa that definitely had a lot of doubts about what his role was as things were getting really bad, and was basically used as a sacrificial lamb by Simon Phoenix to point to the evils of the government that was controlling the country, by showing the soldiers were just killing innocents. And he framed John Spartan for it, as an example of like the government, not only using black soldiers to enforce their terrible rules, but they're like killing civilians and just like trying to hammer it home. So there was nothing personal between Simon Phoenix and John Spartan in this, really. It was more that John Spartan was the sacrificial lamb to get this point across by Simon Phoenix. And so years later, there is this growing terrorist cell with the underdweller people, and they decide, like in the original, to thaw out Simon Phoenix as a way of like trying to kill their leader, because this is somebody that has through history, in that kind of society, his history is altered, where he was just like a directionless maniac. He didn't stand for anything. He wasn't a freedom fighter, quote unquote, or anything. He was just this monster that killed people and was an anarchist with no cause for it. And so they could pin some terrible thing on them and just throw it away as, he's a crazy person. He got thought out. It's crazy. When, of course, that goes completely sideways, and Simon Phoenix not only teams up with the underdwellers, but he is programmed like in the original movie, but it's that like internal fight moment where he's fighting what he actually feels versus what he's been like programmed to do. And he ends up basically kind of leading them against this new, deeply problematic government. John Spartan gets thought out to fight him. And so for Simon Phoenix, I've got Michael Jai White. Simon Phoenix. He's really high energy. He can have that really like intimidating and aggressive tone, but also there's like a wink behind it as well, which I kind of dig. And John Spartan, I went with Jimon Honsu, who is in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's in everything.
Yeah, old school like the old school. Amistad. Give us free.
Yes. Incredible actor. He can play it intense. He can play it a little bit fun too. I think it would be really fun to pair these two against one another, but in this kind of like, they don't necessarily disagree, but John Spartan is one that just kind of like goes by the rules a little bit more than Simon Phoenix does until he doesn't. They have a couple run-ins with one another. The forces are growing within these underdwellers, with Simon Phoenix using all of the tools that they programmed his brain with to kill the underdwellers, to actually cause terrorist attacks around the city. And it's getting crazy. And soldiers are starting to line the streets. John Spartan is the one that kind of has insight into how Simon Phoenix thinks from him trying to take him down in the past. Similar storyline, except as he's working on trying to take down Simon Phoenix, he starts to see that there's like stuff's not lining up properly. Like there seems to be something like insidious happening behind this, like clearly openly insidious city that he's now a part of. He's already not stoked about what he's seeing about the world, but adding on that there's clearly some underworkings to like frame people and stuff. He is not really sure where he lies. Then he ends up getting captured along with Lenina Huxley, who is his kind of Sherpa through this future land, played by Charlize Theron.
Nice.
And I wanted to get...
It's another African, huh?
Well, right? Strangely enough, yes. I did want to have at least a few African actors in there. If we're having it take place in Africa, it only makes sense. And although Charlize traditionally doesn't play quote unquote African roles, in this context, I mean, I think it would be interesting for her to come from South Africa as a white woman to have, like, be able to play into those insights a little bit. So basically what puts Sean Spartan over the edge is that he finds out that Lenina Huxley has actually been secretly feeding the underdwellers like movements and information about the soldiers in the country and what they're doing to help their cause, while secretly being on the police force, or will be on the police force as well. So she's actually with them. So she's got a foot in both worlds, which is part of the reason why she was able to identify with John Spartan so much when he came out of the thaw, is because she understands like that, the nature of his world where he comes from a little bit more than just a common person would, because she's helping with this rebellion. And
nice.
And so Simon Phoenix and John Spartan, their biggest argument with one another is the loss of innocent lives, is that John Spartan will not approve that. Like, he's not going to let innocent people die to prove a point, where Simon Phoenix, it's like by any means necessary. Lenina Huxley definitely at one point thinks that Simon Phoenix is going too far, which is when she kind of like pulls John Spartan in to like we've got to stop him. Like, this, I support this cause, but this isn't the way. This is going to backfire, and they're going to be seen as monsters, and then we won't be able to get anywhere. The Edgar Friendly, who is the previous leader of the Underdwellers before Simon Phoenix comes into play, I had to put in Sharlto Copley. He was in District 9. He was like the main dude in District 9. He was in Elysium as well. Yeah, which might give you some hints as to who my director might be in this context. But he's a great character actor. He can play intense. He can play really silly and fun. I think he would be a lot of fun in that previously stand-up comedian role that was Edgar Friendly. Then for Chief George Earl, the bald chief at the station, who's just kind of a hard ass, as much as anybody can be in this like homogenized world that exists. I wanted somebody that could get mean and get a little scary. And seeing him in Whiplash, J.K. Simmons, I think would be really fun in that role, as just the
definitely
a mixture of him being in the Spider-Man movies as J. Jonah Jameson, and also in Whiplash, just a barking orders, loud, angry chief seems like a lot of fun in this role. And then the real villain of all this is Dr. Raymond Cocteau, who is the villain in the original movie. But in this case, he's almost like a cult leader, where he's incorporated religion, philosophy, and politics in one fused like way of running society, and it's deeply racist and bigoted and cultish, the way that the country is running. And it looks like everything's running really well because there is like minimal crime and stuff, but that's the same thing that you see in any kind of like fascist society, is that if you murder anybody that like shoplifts, there's going to be less shoplifting. You know, that's just kind of the state of things.
Except for the people that are in your cabal. Yes,
Exactly.
I'll take that. Oh, you're in the cabal. Okay, yes, you may take whatever you'd like. My family doesn't need to eat. You're fine.
So that's the version of Raymond Cocteau that we get in this version, where he's just like this almost cult leader that is running this country that is deeply fascist and terrible. And he's been selling this lie this whole time. And I think, you know, you want somebody that's like the devil with a smile kind of person for that role. And I couldn't think of anybody better than Christoph Waltz to play that role, as just just a smiling, charismatic, but deeply evil character. Then we've got Alfreda Garcia, the sidekick to Lenina Huxley. I did also get Diego Luna for that role. It seemed appropriate.
He works.
And he was in Elysium as well. And if you haven't guessed already, my director is Neil Blomkamp, who did.
Now, did you go with him because of the South Africa connection?
Somewhat, but also I was looking at that the common thread between all three of his biggest movies, District 9, Chappie, and Elysium, is that there is like an above and below society. In District 9, the above society, the spaceship society, are the ones that are like actually poor and like disenfranchised. Chappie, there's a cultural, just hard separation in South Africa, and that is definitely explored in that conversation. Elysium, there's literally a space station of rich people that are like away from the plebs on Earth. So it made sense that not only because it's a South African conversation, but and about apartheid, but also because it is literally separate societies that are forced to kind of be together in one way, shape, or form, and has been a major common theme for him. And so I think it would be really interesting to see what he would do with this in that same kind of context of exploring what it's like to be the disenfranchised members of society without a voice, and then having somebody that stands up as the voice, even though they weren't technically a part of that society for the longest time. Like, that's District 9, that's in Chappie, that's in Elysium, that there's like that one person that can kind of stand up and be the voice for the voiceless.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You know what country owns that genre right now is South Korea. Like 70% of the content they make is about the separation of the haves and the have-nots. So that is in the conversation all the time anyway, but especially right now.
Oh, sure.
With stuff like what was the game show one that was on Netflix?
Oh, Squid Game. Yeah.
Squid Game and Parasite. Even Burning was about, I loved Burning, but even that was about the separation of the haves and the have-nots.
True, yeah.
Yeah, just really interesting stuff. I dig it.
So yeah, I think, I didn't think about that. Yeah, definitely South Korea is doing a lot in that genre. But I just thought it would be interesting to incorporate like actual history and just do like an alternate future version of it, where to have that conversation. And the basic gist is that, you know, that Raymond Cocteau is exposed for who he really is, and that there's been this like really disgusting, like corrupted government that everybody gets access to all that information. Of course, John Spartan and Simon Phoenix have that, of course, classic action movie moment where Simon Phoenix is about to blow up innocent people. John Spartan stops him by shooting him, and then either like he falls and then Spartan grabs him and then he tries not to let go, but then Simon Phoenix is like, no, let me go, and like pushes off, or he just like dies in his arm. You can pick which one you want. But basically kind of Simon Phoenix at the end being like, no, you right. And accepting that Spartan had the more honorable way of approaching this. And Spartan basically ends up kind of taking the lead of these underlings as a real revolution is starting with all people. And
awesome.
Yeah.
But he keeps the standard. And that's what you want. You still want somebody to support the underdogs in the end and not the evil system.
Yeah. There isn't really any good movies that, well, no, that's not true. The only movie I can think of offhand that supports the evil system, that you're like rooting for the bad guys almost, and you're totally fine with it, is, I don't know why it's okay that fascism is okay to root for if it's in space, but Starship Troopers, like you're like, yay, fascism, the whole movie. And
yeah, but that's the intentional joke of the movie.
Sure, yeah.
Yes, you're a rah-rah because of how it's packaged. You're like, yes, I support fascism, and I support fascism. Me too. I'm collecting cans to support fascism.
Yep. And I thought about kind of approaching this movie that same way, of having a very like satirical approach to it, where it's like, hooray, oppression, you know, and I couldn't find the right, you know, recipe to make that work. But
it's a hard tone to get right.
Yeah, definitely. So we definitely both went a little bit more political with our real takes. The next version that we're looking at here is probably not going to be quite as intense. I'm just assuming here, but we're talking about our remix versions of these. Remake. I'm never going to have a sound.
The Wesley Snipe drop?
Yeah. Seriously, if you haven't watched Demolition Man in a while and this inspires you to watch it, look out for the DJ record scratching anytime Wesley Snipes like kung fu kicks somebody. And then there's also the like in the museum deeply racist moment that Wesley Snipes is just like,
you'll know when you hear it. It is shocking.
Yeah, if you missed it, what is your life like? This is pretty clear. There's some interesting moments in this movie, but overall still a really fun time. It's goofy and dumb and just a good fun ride. But
oh yeah.
For this version of this fun ride, what are we looking at for your version?
So my remix, really simple. It's a direct remake. It's like a 2010s remake, or maybe like a 2005 remake when they were remaking things like Starsky and Hutch, or just nostalgia remake, basically.
Okay.
But updated to focus on humor and to focus on the era specific humor. So everything is hilariously politically incorrect. So that Wesley Snipes doing that thing is basically 75% of the movie.
Oh,
no. Like a Hangover kind of vibe.
No. Okay. Well, I mean, thing is, that would probably do really, really well.
Yeah, no, it'd be a cult classic right now, and frat dudes would still be watching it and loving the shit out of it.
Yep.
But basically, what I have is a comedy, focus on comedy versus action, still action, but focus on comedy. And there's not a whole lot that's different plot-wise. Just like I said, the difference is basically the greater focus on the comedy. My John Spartan is John Cena. My Simon Phoenix is Kevin Hart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so the comedy in that situation in itself is part of the thing. My Lenina Huxley is Kate McKinnon. Warden Smithers is Stephen Root, who you may know from News Radio and Office Space and King of the Hill.
Have you seen my
Panshot?
And a very brief cameo in the Book of Boba Fett as well, actually.
Yeah, so. and in the Book of Boba Fett most recently. My Alfredo Garcia is Wilmer Valderrama, because he can do humor, and I haven't seen him in anything specific in years. Edgar Friendly, Neil Patrick Harris.
Nice. Who
was the analyst in the Matrix movies. Chief George Earl, who was the chief of police in the original one. Tim Meadows. Dr. Raymond Cocteau is Jermaine Clement.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see him as a cult leader type character for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Associate Bob is Eric Stonestreet, who you may not know, but he is one of the characters on Modern Family. Okay. There's like the gay couple, and he's the heavy guy who's in the gay couple.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He's got like a very similar actor vibe to the guy who played him originally. And the only specific thing that I pulled out for this is I want a scene where Kevin Hart is eating some cereal or some ice cream or something in the background out of one of the seashells, while people in the foreground are describing what the three seashells are actually for.
That's pretty good. Okay.
That's the vibe of the movie that I'm going for.
That is solid. Yeah.
And so like I said, the tone is like a 2010s comedy, kind of like the tone of like a 21 Jump Street or a Starsky and Hutch. And the director I've chosen for that is Todd Phillips, who people know now from The Joker, but Todd Phillips' signature style is from the Hangover films and Old School and Road Trip. Just like inappropriate humor vibes. That's what I'm going for now. And I think that he is the guy for that movie. That was
a big conversation that he had years ago when Joker came out. He was talking about how it was hard for him to think about doing comedies anymore because apparently comedy is dead because of PC culture, according to him. Which I remember that. Yeah, I always think it's hilarious when people are like, "Yeah, you can't make any jokes at all ever anymore because of PC culture." I'm like, did you just have racist jokes then? Like, why is all jokes?
Well, it's a complicated conversation. Culture changes, society changes, and you are either willing to change and adapt.
Yep.
Those things may not be funny anymore. I believe that there is something lost, but there's probably more gained in that transition.
Sure.
So you just don't roll with it. And you can still say those things, and what happens when you say those things is what happens to you. So you'll have to accept that.
Yep.
If you want to say those things, but you don't have to. You can just adapt or do something else.
And with any kind of cultural shift in any country in any point in history, there always tends to be an overcorrection. You look at the French Revolution, and they were literally like pulling like royalty out and like chopping their heads off in public. So like, yeah, there is some overreaction sometimes on how you, or at least celebration of being the popular voice when there's a culture
it's
shift.
kind of how you get to the change. If you don't overcorrect, if you don't shoot beyond the point that you want to get to, then then because of the backlash, because of the tension that's pushing against you, you might never get to the point that you want to get to.
Exactly. It's like bargaining, that if you're at a yard sale and it says $10 and you're like, I'm going to give you $5, knowing that they're not going to accept $5, but they might come down to $7, that you have to.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what culture does all the time. Always has done that. And so yeah, those big swings that people take on PC culture and stuff, that's the ones that people point to, like, comedy's dead because somebody on the internet said this was dumb. And it's like, that is literally one person in the world that is saying that. Like, you can't point to that and say that's the entire culture. It's nonsense. But that being said, yeah, that has a little bit to do with my version as well. I didn't go quite the same direction that you did with yours, but I definitely was walking in the same ballpark of it. Is that I wanted just a really slick, like, action movie vibe to it that didn't really worry about taking, like, racial stereotypes and the like. They weren't really worried about that being a problem. That they're still included in. It's just a slick action movie with very two-dimensional characters. Everybody is like has top 40 like dance music intro scenes in slow motion. There's really cool heist concept cars that are in the movie as future cars that are driving 120 miles an hour during the 8 car chases during this movie. Everybody is impeccably dressed and looks like good at every point. There's no moment that they're wearing something dumb unless that's the joke in the scene. So laying it out, basically, this is slick. There's no political commentary. There's no insight to be made from this. It's just a big, dumb, explodey, fun action movie. John Spartan, The Rock. We got him just being The Rock, being the same character he is in every movie, and that's not an insult.
He is the action star.
Yeah, and that's not an insult. He's great at the thing that he does, and I love seeing it, and I'm not mad about it. So just be The Rock as John Spartan. Do the eyebrow thing, cool. And then we've got Simon Phoenix. I wanted somebody that could play off of The Rock relatively well, that had a comedic presence, but also was like a big man. And this is a dude that was in a movie with Mark Wahlberg on Netflix, whose name escapes me, but he was kind of like the tech sidekick, but he's a massive man. And also he was in Black Panther as well, Winston Duke as Simon Phoenix. Spencer Confidential, that is the movie. Actually, not great, but not bad as a movie.
So I used to watch Spencer for Hire back in the day.
Yeah.
And its offshoot show, The Man Called Hawk. And I have not seen Spencer Confidential. I didn't want to sully the memory of Spencer for Hire with whatever this movie was.
Fair enough. And it is basically just like a slick, dumb, fun kind of action-y deal. So you didn't miss a whole lot. But Winston Duke is great in everything that I've seen him in, whether the movie is good or not.
He is. Yeah. I
think it would be a really good time to see Winston Duke versus The Rock, playing off of each other. I see that as just being a really good time. Of course, Lenina Huxley, Gal Gadot, you got to do it. And
so sassy.
Yeah, I mean, and you need that beyond impossible hotness, tall model character to play in this version. And we're following a lot of the same beats as the original, but it's just with much higher action. Yes, there's guns. There's so many guns. There's guns everywhere. They're lousy with them. You can just say that the cops have guns and then they get stolen, or Simon Phoenix finds a warehouse that the cops keep the guns that they confiscated back in the 2010s, and then boom, he's got an arsenal and an army and shit. And then you have guns, cool, and laser guns too. Why not? And ones that don't overheat immediately. And then we've got Edgar Friendly, who is the Underground's leader, previously played by Dennis Leary. We're going to get Ryan Reynolds in there to be the funny Underground guy. And maybe even
why not?
The joke that everybody is filthy down there, except Ryan Reynolds, who has a perfectly clean face, except for one little grease mark on his cheek. And that's it. And he's just perfectly clean otherwise, nice crisp clothes, one little mark on his face, done. Then
because that's just Ryan Reynolds.
Dude, yeah, and then you've also got The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot working together again after working in was it Red Notice?
Red Notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a big, dumb, fun action movie as well. Then you've got Chief George Earl. That's Mark Wahlberg just being like angry, racist Bostonian police chief kind of vibe. And just barking out orders and calling people, phrases that probably shouldn't be using in the future. And then the villain, the Dr. Raymond Cocteau, the cult leader / governor, whatever kind of thing this dude was doing in the original, I wanted to give the Tooch a mustache twirly moment. So Stanley Tucci as the man behind the curtain pulling all the strings.
It's very perfect. That is very perfect.
I think he would also have so much fun in that role, just chewing every bit of scenery and just having a great time with it. And then, of course, Alfredo Garcia, you need the character actor that's going to be so stereotypically his race that it is racist, even though he is that race. Like that it's like you had that character in the first Transformers movie. You had the two robots in the second Transformers movie. Like you need that character that is just like problematically their race in as far as like stereotypes go. So John Leguizamo as Alfredo Garcia in there, just being as Hispanic as humanly possible in this role.
He can do it. I don't know if you ever saw some of his like one man show specials from the 90s.
Oh, I did. Yeah. So that was part of the reason why I'm like, yeah, he can do it. And of course, the person that is making this big, explodey, fun, somewhat problematic action movie, of course, is a problematic person himself, Michael Bay, doing everything.
Because why not?
And because you watch his movies and there is no focus on making this like not a problem. Like there's so many like issues with his movies that they're not massive issues, mind you. They're just like minor things for the most part, but it's just a little tone deaf sometimes with his approach to stuff. And
because he doesn't have to care.
He doesn't have to care because, the audience is big enough that's there for those movies that, yeah, why would he care? And I think it would just be the right choice for like a slick, high budget version of Demolition Man to get Michael Bay on board and just say fuck it.
Yeah, he makes a product that I think does definitely work for Demolition Man, and he's made movies that I'm like, oh man, I like that movie. But did you see Six Underground?
I did.
Did you see Six Underground?
I did.
Man, I'm really open for what Netflix puts out usually, and if something's funky, I'm like, it was free. Six Underground was terrible.
It was really bad. I took me
so bad.
2 separate occasions to try to watch it. I turned it on the first time, and I think I got through the first car chase before I was like, okay, I'm done. Like the 45
Why are they driving on the moon? Oh, and now they're driving on the water. Okay, and now they're driving on the side of a building. What is going on here?
Yeah, it was one of those that they were trying to keep it more grounded than the Fast and the Furious movies, which isn't hard, but it was still kind of like insane what they were trying to do, and just the repartee that was taking place during this chase scene, I was just not about it at all. So, I think it would be interesting to see Michael Bay ruin another property from my youth. But one that is already so bad that I'm not like that mad at it, where it's like you can only make it so much dumber.
Be $1 billion movie.
Oh, it could. If just all the explosions in the world, you've got like that car chase scene that's towards the end of the movie. You've got like, of course, a bunch of like hand-to-hand combat shit happening. You got dumb future costumes. You could make half your money just by another Taco Bell plug. So
it'd be amazing. Actually, so I tried to watch some of Demolition Man with my girlfriend, and one of the things that I verbally that caught me by surprise was they blow up a large building at the beginning of the movie, which is something that just movies did back in the old days. But it was a real explosion of this large building. And I was like, oh my God, that's a real explosion. They don't happen as often in the modern time.
No, they don't.
So yeah, I think Michael Bay would have some real explosions in there. I think it'd be pretty great, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is like it wouldn't be good by any stretch because Michael Bay isn't in the business of making good movies, but it would be fun. And
it'd be a good time, which is the hallmark of the original one.
Yep.
It's a good time.
It is a good time. And I actually introduced Amy Bogard to Demolition Man a couple years ago it was my birthday and I got to choose what movie. And so I used that as an opportunity to make her watch something I thought she was going to hate. By the end of the movie, she was like, "That's amazing. I love that movie. That was so much fun." She was in for the ride. She knew exactly what kind of movie it was very early on and just like buckled in and had a great time with it and was like, "Yeah, the movie's amazing." So
it's the being able to put your vision on screen. So even if you don't agree with somebody's vision, if you see that somebody went just balls out on something that is like, how did this get made? Some of the stuff in there, how did this get made? Then you got to respect that a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So that is our 4 versions of Demolition Man, and I think we got some really interesting choices there. Do you have any ideas for mashups?
I did have one. Actually, I had a couple come to mind. One was Time Cop.
Ooh, okay.
Where John Spartan has upset the timeline, so we have to bring in Time Cop to come and deal with him. I think that would be a lot of fun, especially made as a 90s movie.
Yeah,
kiss.
100%. Yeah.
Another weird one is Zardoz. And
please continue. I'm interested.
So Zardoz is about what you were talking about. It's about the haves and the have-nots and the separate lives they live and how the making of that society is detrimental to both parties. And in this case, inside the city, the people that are living well are the people that live in was it Francisco or San Angeles?
San Angeles, I think is what it was. Yeah.
San Angeles. They're the haves. So we never see what's outside the city, but outside the city is Zardoz. And so Zed makes his way into the city and causes chaos in the same way that John Spartan does in my version of the series movie. Nice.
Well done. Okay. I got a couple as well that I was thinking of. The first one that seemed like kind of an obvious choice is because the glazed over look on most of the actors' face in the original and the weird choice that they're like listening to old jingles and saying like happy joy feelings and murder death kill and just it sounds like baby garbage like words. I was like,
because they're singing the freaking Armor Hot
Dogs jingle and shit. So I'm like, there is some like shared space on this diagram between Demolition Man and Idiocracy a bit.
There is.
Where like
100%
everything's been automated to a place where like nobody really has to do anything in the society anymore and everybody's just gotten dumber. And of course Rob Schneider's in it, so everyone's gotten dumber. And the cops are just kind of standing around. There's so many cops. There's one 911 operator and it's Rob Schneider. Like he's the one being like, happy 911, what can I do for you? And then all the other cops are just like drinking coffee or not coffee, like juice drinks or something.
Mountain Dew. They're drinking Mountain Dew.
Baja Blast.
The blue one. Yeah.
And just hanging out and hoping that somebody like, I don't know, like parks illegally or something. So the idea of things being so easy in life and automated that everybody just becomes really dumb definitely can feed into Idiocracy, and I think that'd be fun to see.
I'm loving that.
Just make it dumber. Like everybody in the future is just an idiot, and that's part of the like what the fuck of the moment of Simon Phoenix and John Spartan coming back is that they're like, wow, you guys are like you're future people. Like you're supposed to be like traveling in space and like being able to like with teleporter technology and like flying cars and shit. And you like don't know how to say words right. Like that's and they're just like frustrated most of the time because they can't even like engage people in any real way because everybody's just an idiot. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
That would work really well. You know what is interesting to me right now in this moment I'm thinking about it. So we have 4 main pitches. We've made 3 mashup pitches, and none of these pitches have we directly addressed. And this is a kind of one of the points of the movie was the people don't touch during sex anymore.
Yeah.
Is that so far out of our movie culture as a thing that we don't even consider that when we're like, oh, I'm going to pitch a movie that have to have sex because that's not what sells right now. That's just interesting because I had that written down as a point, but I didn't incorporate it into any of my
Yeah, I didn't
takes
either.
or anything.
I didn't either. I think because like nobody wants to see that. Like that's just it was an interesting.
We have porn, yeah.
Yeah, I mean there was an interesting point in putting that in there is that like what is that this world is so weird that they don't even have sex anymore, and Stallone just being like what but no, nobody wants a movie that like that's a major part of the conversation, like because sex sells, not sex doesn't sell. So yeah. But the one other idea that I had, and you brought up a couple times about like the big action heroes of the time and stuff. There is a movie that incorporates a lot of our favorite action heroes from the 80s and 90s. And why not incorporate that into Demolition Man, where there's even a moment where Simon Phoenix talks about thawing out some of his guys to help him in the later parts of the movie. So why not get John Spartan to get his like ragtag group of cops that play by their own rules, and then you have like an Expendables Demolition Man combo.
That'd be so awesome.
That would be so fucking epic. You've got like all the heavy hitters of the 80s and 90s in there just doing their thing, and running around, and just like these big units of good guys and bad guys, G.I. Joe style, going through this future city, just blowing shit up. It'd be a great time.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. What a wonderful exercise in stroking our just fond memories of the 90s, the Expendables was.
Oh,
like,
100%.
As far as the cash in on like a nostalgia, you're brilliant, Stallone. You're brilliant.
That's 8 pitches that we've done on this episode. I think we've done about the best that we can for Demolition Man. So now we got to pick one of our versions to do a trailer for before we get out of here. So I think it's going to be more fun for me to do the Michael Bay version for a trailer. So I think that's what I'm going to do. What are you going to do for your trailer?
I'm doing my Ridley Scott version.
Okay, sweet. So let me get the music going.
John Spartan was out of control at a time and place that needed out of control. It takes a maniac to stop a maniac. Jason Momoa is John Spartan, a man of time, a man who will do anything to make now, then. Kiki Lane is Lenita Huxley, a woman who will be pushed to her limits as she tries to stop them. Join them as they wrestle with the fate of Mega City San Angeles. John Spartan is a man out of time, the calendar, and the only appointment marked on that calendar is for today, and it says, Society is scheduled for demolition. Ridley Scott's Demolition Man, coming soon to a theater near you.
God damn it. And that date is today. It says destruction. Jesus.
I'm a fucking nerd.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do a whole lot better here. So, yeah, this is let me pull up my list of people here. Okay. So, yeah, this is my Michael Bay version here.
In a world that's been homogenized to the point where people don't even touch when they fuck, comes the action heroes to save the day. Join John Spartan, played by The Rock, and Simon Phoenix, played by Winston Duke, as they duke it out in the future. Michael Bay's Demolition Man. Meet John Spartan, a cop that won't stop from the 1980s Los Angeles, brought to the future to stop an evil villain from his past that is trying to destroy the peaceful world of San Angeles. John Spartan teams up with Lenita Huxley, played by Gal Gadot, as they run around the city looking for Simon Phoenix by following his path of destruction. Along the way, they come across Edgar Friendly, played by Ryan Reynolds, an underdweller just trying to live free or die from heart disease because he likes cheeseburgers. Chief George Earl is always on the case, played by Mark Wahlberg. Hey guys! That's all I got for that.
Come and have a Wahlburger.
Eventually they realize the real villain is Dr. Raymond Cocteau, the person in charge of the little experiment that turned St. Angeles into a dystopian fascist hellstate. And also featuring John Leguizamo as Alfredo Garcia. I'm not going to do an impression.
Come on!
Tacos. I don't. Okay.
Oh no!
Yeah, I don't.
Cut it out!
Something deeply racist. This summer. Destroy the competition. Destroy your enemies. Michael Bay's Demolition Man.
Yay! Destroy the toilet bowl with Taco Bell.
Yeah, right. All right, so that is our versions of Demolition Man and our trailers for this episode of Smack My Pitch Up. Thank you so much to my co-host Thandi for joining me on this futuristic journey into the homogenized world of San Angeles.
Always a good time.
Yeah, and if you have some insights into what you think we should have mashed up with Demolition Man, or who you think was really the best choice to play Simon Phoenix or John Spartan or any of the other actors, hit us up on our social media, GUIPodcast.com to find the links there. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. I'm thinking about doing an Instagram. Depends. If you guys interact with us more on Twitter and Facebook, I'll do an Instagram for us as well, that we can maybe post pictures of some of the people we chose and the like. And yeah, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, all the stuff you do with podcasts. You can check out ratings on Apple Podcasts and Podchaser as well, which, just got a job there.
Boom!
I checked. I can't actually mention that I got a job with Podchaser. But yeah, I am now working at Podchaser, which is a website that I've been a big fan of for years. They do reviews. They're like an IMDb for podcasts. So check that out. It's an incredible resource to find out people who've guested where on what shows. And it's also a place where you can leave a review for this show and any of the other shows on the GUI network. And so we do appreciate that. That gives us a little more exposure. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. And the end. Or is it?
You've just been smacked in your pitch.
Oh yeah, you've been pitch smacked. That's it.
Yeah, you've been smacked in the pitch.
Smacked
with a smack.
I pitched at your smack and I hit it with.
And it felt good.
It was good. That's a really long tagline for the end, but we'll make it work.
GUIPodcast.com.
Oh, Demolition Man, making copies, El Demolitiono.
Coming straight from the mouths of madness, I'm Lowdown.
I'm FU Hunter.
Do you love horror?
We fucking do.
So this is a podcast dedicated to all things in cinematic horror. We're talking movies, television, composers, special effects artists. We're gonna fucking cover it.
So if you love horror,
embrace the madness.
My name is Amy Bogard.
And I'm Mike the Hobbit.
And we are the hosts of Deeply Upsetting, where we use our expertise to answer your most upsetting hypothetical quandaries, such as, what non-winged animal deserves wings?
And what body part deserves a secret mouth?
Which cryptid is the worst roommate?
These questions and more that plague you will be answered on Deeply Upsetting, available anywhere you get your podcasts and at GUIPodcast.com.
In a world of blockbuster movies, there's another dimension.
The dimension of schlock cinema. Join us at Beautiful Disasters on a journey into the fringe territory of B-movie abandon.
We review the flicks that are forgotten or underappreciated to give them a proper place in the annals of celluloid history.
I'm the Groots.
FU Hunter.
Your guides at Beautiful Disasters. Come along with us for a fun ride. May
the schlock be with you.
Hey guys, Scotty P here with Smash on your left. And we are the Geek Fathers. That's right, bringing all the trials and tribulations of being a geeky parent.
So welcome to our world.
And as always, join us
or cry.
Mike the Hobbit here,
Lowdown Brown.
inviting you to check out Geeks Under the Influence, a podcast that pairs booze with conversation with good friends.
And a little nerd culture.
We get a lot of colorful conversation out of our episodes, but it is here for everyone, no gatekeeping.
Always level up everything we do.
We'll punch up, never punch down.
Exactly.
So check out Geeks Under the Influence anywhere you get your podcasts and join us or die.
Shut the fuck up, Hobbit. Welcome to GUI Nights.
GUI Nights.
Yeah, I am Lowdown Brown. With me as always,
Mike the Hobbit.
this is the tangential side of GUI.
This is like so many of those other shows that has the after the show bit mixed with a little bit of Baywatch night, so it's a little sexier. It's a little bit after hours.
Also while tying it into the previous episode of GUI. So look forward to that too, because this comes out the week after the flagship hour-long episode.
So make sure to check out GUI Nights, and when you're done, you can
Go the fuck home.